We're back. The Lone Star State has a Texas-sized affordable housing challenge. One of the organizations that's taking steps to increase affordable homes for Texans is the Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers. Our next guest, Roger Arriaga, is their executive director. Roger, thank you for connecting with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is an issue we all have to contend with.
You know, many Texans are looking for affordable housing and they are looking to rent. What are the common challenges that they face when they're looking for a home here in the Lone Star State? And what options can they tap into?
You know, the challenges that the average renter is seeing today really just has to do flat out with affordability. The state comptroller came out with a report recently, and one of the data points that they're talking about is that between the years of 2012 and 2022, rents that were $1,000 or less decreased by almost 30%. But at the same time, those units, those rentable units costing between $1,000 and $2,000 increased by over 100%. But even bigger than that, for new units that we've seen over that same period of time, coming on with rents over $2,000 a month, those have increased by 253%. So developers do need a return on their investments. It's happening usually at the higher end of the rental scale. And by the way, one of the things that we're seeing is there's plenty of renters that would love to be homeowners, but they're also getting priced out of the homeownership space as well. So options for them that I am looking at is if you're a family that is looking for an affordable opportunity and you might have great incomes and you're thinking, hey, I don't necessarily need to be considered in the rent restricted space, I would think twice about that because given the high increase in living expenses, many families that are even professional or degreed or have regular and good incomes might qualify under those programs. So I would not leave those out of the mix.
Well, you mentioned developers, and we know that the Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers works directly with private developers. So what incentives are available to them to build more affordable housing in Texas?
So the development side is a very important side of this because without them at the table, you don't get this supply that we absolutely need. There aren't a whole lot of options out there for in terms of incentives, but there is the federal housing tax credit program. That's something that's been around for a while. There's also tax exemptions. It's getting a lot of attention at the legislature right now. And tax exemptions simply are another way to stretch the limited resources available to these developers. And one thing that I'm also seeing that's fairly recent, maybe over the last 10 years or so, is that some of our major metro governments are starting to take matters into their own hands by having general obligation bond voting initiatives where the voters themselves are supporting affordable housing in their respective communities.
So how has the Texas affordable housing landscape changed in recent years?
You know, the landscape in housing, I've been around this space for quite a while, and the difficulty in producing it has absolutely increased for sure. If you look at what's happening with interest rates, that doesn't make things any cheaper. Insurance has skyrocketed for affordable housing providers, and that becomes a real detrimental impact as well. And so you add that on top of standard inflation, it just makes it really difficult to do this. So the developers in this space that do high quality, safe, and affordable housing, it gets tougher to do it, and they have to know exactly how to accomplish it. There are some things that have happened that have been beneficial. Last session in the 88th Texas legislature, there was created a state housing tax credit as opposed to the federal one. So it's a structure that now exists, but it does need to be better funded in order for it to make a difference in Texas. And we're going to continue advocating for all programs that make more resources and more affordable housing available to the workforce of Texas.
And speaking of the legislature, your organization is actively engaged at the Capitol. So what is TAAHP prioritizing in this current session? You kind of already started leading us that way, but give us more insight.
Yeah. So we are the Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers, and our job is to advocate for more supply of affordable housing. So for the first time, and this is what is kind of exciting, the entire legislature is engaged. The governor, lieutenant governor, speaker of the House, key committees of the legislature are all talking affordable housing. So that's a great thing. One of the challenges that we're seeing, however, is they are talking a lot about the single family home ownership side of things, and nearly half of all Texans rent. So we are going to need to see some solutions around those things. And what TAAHP ultimately advocates for are ways that we can flex some of the very rigorous regulatory requirements that are placed on our developers. So we have several bills out there that we're hoping are going to make some sense to the legislators that are going to flex out some of the cost-intensive requirements that keep us from building more supply for the state of Texas and for the workforce.
All right, Roger, we thank you for your time.
You got it. Anytime.
And that'll do it for this week's In Focus Texas. I'm Carla Leal. Thanks for joining us to look at our state's housing market as a whole. Get out there and make a difference. See you next time.